Hi, it's Kim from the Shamrock Quilt Studio, and we're here today to give you the reveal of a project we've been working on for 2025. If you recall, this was the first project we started after the first of the year, and it is a project that started out just making 4 of these blocks. We made these 4 blocks in the center, the pink, green, excuse me, yellow and blue blocks, and we finished those up and we hung them up in our frame for a while and enjoyed them. But the more I looked at them, the more I liked them, and the more I wanted this to be a much bigger quilt. So I took what I had and made more blocks. Now, if you recall, this project was made from a little bundle of these kind of watermarked, bright, vivid colors. They're almost, some of them are almost a little on the neon side, but they're very bright. And when you pair that with that black fabric, they really pop out. So in my package, I think I had 5 different colors, and I was able to pull from my stash a couple of more. To the 4 basic colors, we added a purple. I think you can see that right down here. A dark green, an orange, and a red. And they're all very similar in their design on them. They almost look like a water stained fabric, and it's just very striking. It's a great fabric if you were doing stained glass quilting, that it would look like that texture in the glass when it's not quite solid. It's a little wavy. So we paired that little bundle of fabric and the few extra pieces that I had. I'm trying to remember if I actually had to buy anything or not. I'm thinking I didn't. I'm thinking that I had all of these either from our stained glass project. I know that's where the green, the orange, and the red came from. And I think the purple came in the original bundle with these 4. So that kind of accounts for everything. And then the black that I did use a Kona black for this. They did not have the store brand when I went purchasing. And I also thought that since I was working with a black fabric, which I don't typically do, that perhaps it was better to go with a little better quality fabric. So I did go with the Kona. And then for the binding and the backing, initially I was looking for something to put as a border around this. And when I went shopping, I found this fabric. This is a store brand fabric. Actually, I think this is brother-sister design, which I think is either a in-house brand for Hobby Lobby or something they carry a lot. And it was a black fabric with all these little random bright dots. And I'll tell you, when I saw it, I immediately knew it was perfect. Now initially I was, like I said, I was going to put a border around this with the dots. But as this came together in its larger form, what I figured out, or what I decided, was I really wanted a border around it to kind of frame in the design, all the color. And then that little binding in the polka dot around the outside was just a cute little accent that kind of popped everything and made it even more fun than it already is. And that is the backing on the quilt as well. Instead of going with a wide backing, I decided to just use the regular size 44-inch fabric and just run it one panel this way, one panel this way, with a seam somewhere in here. I think it's maybe right about here. Now this quilt finish size is about 47 by 67. Those are the dimensions. It's just an odd size, and it's just the size that was perfect for this. There are 8 of the full bear paw blocks, and there are 6 of the quarter bear paw. And I did that because I thought that if we did not have that here, it would look a little bare, and pardon the pun. But by doing that, it kind of rounded it out a little bit. So now that I've told you the things I really like about this quilt, let's pull the curtain back and tell you what I didn't like about this quilt. Now, as I said, I've never done a black background or primarily black quilt. I've done a lot of black and white, but this is my first experience working with a lot of black fabric and quilting on black. What I didn't like, it was extremely difficult to quilt it because it was so darn hard to see. Even sitting with an light right here and sewing here, it was so hard to see it. And I told my daughter I thought for a while I was going blind because I couldn't see it. I could not distinguish exactly where that stitch was once I put it in. So I had to very carefully just kind of stitch from feel and also memory of knowing where the stitch went in and where the stitch came out. And my little trick about using the gridded mylar really helped with that because I was able to depend on it for stitch spacing and sizing. The next thing I didn't like is I do have a little bit of bearding where the batting is coming out from the quilt stitches, and it's from the stitch, of course, coming through the batting and then coming out the fabric. I don't know if that will eventually go away. I'm not sure. I had wanted to put a black batting in this, but I could not find any at the time without spending a lot of time and money trying to get it to me. No one locally had any black batting, so that was a difficulty. I decided to go with the warm and natural instead of the warm and white, hoping that that would mitigate any problems with it coming through. And maybe it did. Maybe it would have been worse with the warm and white. I just don't know. And then the final thing that I think I have fixed was that in quilting something by hand, you know, you're going to have your backing, and you're going to have your batting, and then you're going to have your quilt top. And generally speaking, I know I don't do anything with those edges until I'm after quilting because I know they're going to shrink up a little bit as you quilt. So on the edge of all this quilt all the way around, we had a strip about 1 inch to 2 inches of that batting sticking out. And everywhere that batting touched this black fabric, it put the fibers of the batting on the quilt top. So I spent probably 2 hours with a really, really sticky lint roller going over this. I think I went over it 3 times. I pressed it, I went over it again, just to try to get as much of that lint off as I could. I think I've got most of it off, and I don't think we're going to have that problem again because now we've encapsulated all that batting in with the binding. So I don't think that's a problem going forward, whereas the bearding could be. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it won't be. And I think for the most part, what you see here, you don't see that bearding. It's only when you're this close that you can just see just the least little bit. And as it's used, my guess is that anything that touches those little fibers sticking out is going to darken them, and you would be less likely to see it as time goes on and it's handled more. I don't know what's going to happen when we get to a point where we have to throw this in the washing machine. Everything was pre-washed, but who knows what might happen. So my goal is going to be to keep this out of the washing machine for quite a while, And maybe once it's washed, I'll come back and report to you what kind of experience we had. I'm thinking nothing will happen, but you never know. So that is our Black Bear project. I just can't tell you how excited I am to see those beautiful colors when I walk in here. It's a big quilt, but it's not a huge quilt. And it would be great if you wanted to put this on the back of a sofa or use it as a wall hanging. It would make a very dramatic wall hanging because it is so large. But it's not so large that it would be difficult to hang. I think this is very doable as being a hanging piece of art. Piece of textile art would be an accurate description of it. Traditional pattern, untraditional colors makes this something that I think is just spectacular, and I hope you agree, and I hope that you will take the opportunity to make something like this for yourself. I think this is all duplicatable as far as the color choices. You may not find the exact same fabric, but you may. I do recall that this bundle, the one we started with, came from Hobby Lobby, and like I said, I think it was these 4 and then the purple came in it. And I think, let's see, about the first week of February, I was in the store and saw that bundle still there. And it was one that when I bought it, I want to say it was like $6, $7. It wasn't very expensive, and I still have fabric left even after all this that I can use, let's say, on another stained glass project or something. So you've got a little bit here, then you've got your fabric investment with your Kona if you chose to go with that or something else. Now I'll tell you, Kona is not my favorite fabric to sew with because it's very dense and the fibers, the threads in that fabric really, they're thick. So when you look at it really close up, you can really see those little humps where those threads go through the fabric. I think that contributed to that batting sticking to it. I think it kind of grabs. It's a beautiful fabric. It's very thick and it's a little stiff in its natural state. So it gives a lot of structure to what you're working on. But again, it's not my most favorite one of all the fabrics. And I do appreciate the fact that it comes in so many colors. There are a lot of times where I'm looking for a specific color that I go to the Kona line to find it. So there's pros and cons, in my opinion, on that. But it is a great fabric, and you can see that it really did a good job here with this particular design. If you choose to do something like this, be sure to let us know. Send me a comment on the video or send me an email. You can find my email in the information about the channel. Send me an email and tell me how you chose to incorporate something like this into one of your favorite patterns. We'd love to hear from you. And if you have any questions on this, drop it in a comment and I'll do my best to answer it if I can. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. And of course, we'll see you next week here at the Shamrock Quilt Studio. Bye.